He was the freckle-faced boy with a cowlick, who made millions laugh as Alfalfa in the Little Rascals. But behind that iconic off-key voice and innocent grin was a life filled with pain, rejection, and tragedy. From a beloved child star to a man who died in a cloud of controversy and obscurity, the heartbreaking story of Carl Switzer is one Hollywood would rather forget. What really happened to the boy everyone adored? Carl Dean Switzer was born on August 7, 1927, in Paris, Illinois. The youngest of 4 children, Carl grew up in a modest home where music and performance were cherished. He and his older brother Harold displayed an early talent for singing and performing. They would often sing in public, their harmonies catching the attention of friends and strangers alike. Tragedy struck the Switzer family early on when their eldest child died in infancy, a wound that never truly healed. Yet despite the sorrow, Carl's childhood was filled with energy, creativity, and a spark that hinted at something greater. It was a family vacation to California in 1934 that changed everything. One afternoon, while dining at Hal Roach Studios, the Switzer boys began singing to entertain patrons. Their performance caught the attention of Hal Roach himself, a legendary film producer. Impressed by their charisma and natural charm, Roach offered both boys contracts to appear in his wildly popular comedy series, Our Gang, later known as the Little Rascals. Carl was quickly given the nickname Alfalfa because of a cowlick that stood up like a sprout on his head, while Harold received the nickname Slim and took on minor roles. It was Carl who emerged as the breakout star. With his off-tune singing and earnest expressions, Alfalfa won over audiences instantly. Carl became a fan favorite, stealing scenes with every squeaky note. But behind the scenes, things weren't as simple. Tensions brewed between the boys' fathers, Gladys and Fred Switzer, who frequently argued over screen time and compensation. Meanwhile, Carl built a real friendship with his on-screen nemesis, Tommy Bond, who played Butch. Despite their rivalry on camera, they respected each other deeply, offering rare stability in the cutthroat world of child acting. By 1940, Carl had aged out of the Alfalfa role and faced the challenge of transitioning from a beloved child star to a serious actor. His first role post-Our Gang came that same year in I Love You Again, where he played a Boy Scouter, small but symbolically important role. Carl was determined to prove he was more than a childhood novelty. Over the next few years, he continued acting in modest films like Mrs. Wiggs of the Cabbage Patch and Johnny Doughboy. These roles showed glimpses of Carl's acting range, but didn't he lead to any breakout success? Still, he remained persistent. In 1946 and 1947, Carl starred in the Gas House Kid series, a clear nod to his Our Gang roots. Though the series had potential, it was cut short when PRC Studios was absorbed by Eagle Lion Films. Disheartened, Carl referred to his earlier work as MGM short product, signaling his growing resentment toward the legacy that refused to let him grow. Carl never gave up on Hollywood. In the 1950s, he took on bit parts and television roles to stay relevant. He appeared in Pat and Mike as a busboy and had a photograph-only cameo in White Christmas. He transitioned into television, landing guest roles in The Roy Rogers Show, Science Fiction Theater, and The George Burns and Gracie Allen Show. One of his most respected moments came when he worked under director William O. Wellman in 3 films, including Island in the Sky and The High and the Mighty with John Wayne. But it was his role as a Native American in Track of the Cat that Carl was most proud of. For the first time, he was cast as an adult in a serious role, far removed from his Alfalfa days. In 1954, Carl met Deanta Collingwood, daughter of a wealthy grain empire. Their whirlwind romance led to a quick Las Vegas wedding. The couple welcomed a son, Justin, in 1956. In an attempt to start fresh, Diantha's family gifted them a farm in Kansas. Carl tried to adapt to rural life, but it wasn't easy. He was restless, and farming didn't suit him. The marriage crumbled, and by 1957, they divorced. Diantha remarried, and Justin eventually took his stepfather's surname, Eldridge. Carl tried to stay connected, but he was clearly a man caught between the past and a future that refused to take shape. Carl's life took a darker turn in 1958. He was shot in the arm in a mysterious altercation outside a bar in Studio City. The shooter was never found. Later that year, he was arrested for illegally cutting down pine trees to sell as Christmas trees, a desperate move that reflected his crumbling financial situation. He was fined and put on probation. Around this time, Carl was working as a bartender and hunting guide. He had developed a respected reputation for training hunting dogs, attracting clients like Roy Rogers and Henry Fonda. But when a prized hunting dog went missing under his care, it sparked a tragic chain of events. The dog belonged to his friend Moses Bud Stilts. Carl spent money to retrieve it and expected Stilts to reimburse him. On January 21, 1959, Carl and a friend, Jack Piat, went to Stilts' house to confront him. Accounts vary, but an altercation broke out. Stilts claimed Carl was aggressive, demanded money, and threatened him with a knife. A struggle ensued. Stilts fetched a gun. Switzer was shot in the groin and died at 7:27 p.m. He was just 31. But there was another story from 14-year-old Tom Stilts' stepson. He claimed Carl was leaving when he was shot. He saw no knife, just a small penknife by Carl's body. Corrigan was never called to testify. Stilts' version was accepted, and the killing was ruled. Carl Switzer was buried at Hollywood Forever Cemetery, but his death, occurring on the same day as legendary director Cecil B. DeMille, was largely ignored by the press. The boy who once lit up screens with joy and laughter was now a footnote. Ironically, one of Carl's last roles had been in DeMille's Ten Commandments. It was a quiet connection between two Hollywood lives, ending on the same day, one remembered, one forgotten. At his grave, two symbols mark Carl Switzer's complex life. The square and compasses of Freemasonry speak to his values of integrity and fraternity. The image of a hunting dog reflects his love for the outdoors and the quiet peace he found beyond acting. Carl Alfalfa Switzer was more than a child actor. He was a boy who brought joy, a man who lost his way, and a soul who never stopped searching for meaning. Though his fame faded, his story endures, a bittersweet reminder that behind every bright smile, there may be a silent struggle. What do you think about Carl Alfalfa Switzer's life? Let us know in the comments. Thank you for watching.